Hello and welcome to the SRO eSport GT Series. We have got round 2 coming up for you today around the historic Spa Francorchamps circuit. Thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon. My name is Jack Nichols. We've got David Addison, Ben Constanduris and John Watson with you to bring us all of the action about what we're going to see today. We've got 2 one-hour races coming up. The first is for our professional racing drivers, the real world drivers from the GT World Challenge powered by AWS, which will hopefully be getting underway later this year. And we have got the silver class as well, which is for our professional sim racers that are going to be head-to-head. Both have a 1-hour race around Spa, and we're really looking forward to it. As far as qualifying is concerned, it's been a very, very tight session out there. Coming into this race, though, the championship leader was Jordan Pepper, but he only qualified 27th on the grid. Ben Barnicoat, second in the standings, is 22nd on the grid. So I think we're really going to see the pro championship mixed up today. As I say, we've got this race around Spa Francorchamps coming up. Very, very excited to see what unfolds. We'll take a look at qualifying in a little bit. But first, let's get a closer look at the Spa Francorchamps circuit itself. This is the Bentley track guide, the Fanatec Spa track guide with Bentley, and the driver is Andy Soucek.
Hello, this is Andy Soucek, driving for K-Pax Racing by Serial eSports in the Pro class, and this is an onboard lap around Spa.
Hello, this is Andy Soucek, and I'm going to take you around a lap in Spa Francorchamps. So here we are on the main straight, new pit lane, only up to 5th gear, braking at a 100-meter mark down to 1st gear, trying to nail the apex of the corner, being really, really close to the inside curb and wall. Nice smooth exit, 5th gear into Eau Rouge, facing now the most challenging corner I would say in the world in 6th gear, flat out on the top into Radillon. Very nice line over there, as straight as you can, just not to lose any kph possible. Getting into the very hard braking zone into Les Combes, very difficult to nail the braking there, 265 kph. Really tricky on brakes, hitting the inside curb, also the curb on the left of the second part into Les Combes, trying to sacrifice a bit the exit for the third one. Hitting also the exit curb there, very, very deep braking here into Brussels, very tight corner. It's the slowest corner with the chicane of Spa Francorchamps. Once again, sacrificing a bit the exit, using all the track possible, watching out here for track limits, as you always run wide and it's very easy to go wide there. Braking really close, if not on top of the curb, into Pouhon, very, very quick left-handed in 4th gear, trying to be on the throttle early, not to lose any speed. Very fast corner, 200 kph. Once again, in the limiter here, 5th gear into the Piff Path, last section of the track. Really, really important to keep the momentum here. A right-left chicane onto the exit curb once again, a bit of AstroTurf there, and very important here, Stavelot 1 and 2 is to try and prepare the exit, because we have a very, very long straight line. This is a flat right-handed Stavelot, and we just want to, carry as much speed as possible onto this very, very long straight line, where we have a famous corner of Blanchemont using the green side of the track on the right, flat to the left. Quite incredible, the downforce of the Bentley here. Very, very hard braking into the bus stop chicane. Run a little bit wide of this lap, actually had to sacrifice the exit of the corner, which was not ideal. Still didn't lose too much time. All in all, a pretty good lap time. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you.
Out of La Source they come. Everybody now accelerates down towards the start line. And is it going to be Lorenzo Micucci to storm clear into the lead, or what can you expect from the likes of Nicolas Hillebrand or Raffaele Marciello from rows 2 and 3? We're set to go racing here at Spa. Certainly with his nose in front is Micucci then in the white Audi as they cross the line. We go racing. Good getaway there by Micucci. He plunges downhill for the first time. He leads Pereiras as they head through Eau Rouge. They climb up now through Radillon for the first time onto the Camel Straight. He's always hard inbound stuff. 1 or 2 run wide. Kang Ling in the yellow Mercedes way out over the runoff area there. But It is Micucci that has got the drop. Second is Pereira, and now Hillebrand tries to find a way through. You've got Fabrizio Crestani fourth in the leading McLaren, and into second place there goes Hillebrand as they dive up towards Lincoln for the first time. Do they all get through safely? They do. Hillebrand a little bit crossed up, and that Watty has enabled Micucci to get away by a couple of lengths.
Yes, it has, but the first 5 cars have actually made a break from the rest of the field, and you can just spot Marciello right on the tail of the McLaren as they come down through Bruxelles, and the drop down through, we keep referring to it as the corner with no name, then down to what I consider to be the best corner on the racetrack, Pujol. But that's the field as they filed down the drop, and this is a steep downhill drop, getting to not yet quite the lowest part of the Spa Francorchamps circuit, but there is Pujol, that double left-hand corner, and that is a big test for everybody, particularly when the tyres and everything are not fully operational up to racing speed, not to drop it, not to make a silly error.
And 1 and 2 running a little bit wide there. Look, going through the Piff Path, 10 different brands we have got within this race. Don't forget, as the cars now sprint their way down towards Campus, the first right-hander, then into the Cours Paul Frere up towards the end of this opening lap. Clock ticks on down. But Ben Constantiouris, this has been a really good first lap thus far from Micucci, hasn't it? Because he looks as though he's checked out.
All about keeping out of trouble in sim racing, and that is so vital. We've already had a couple of people who have unfortunately been caught out by first lap accidents, but the front of the field have been really clean. Sadly though, Jean-Eric Verne and Martin Kodrick are already in pit lane, and both Alex Buncombe and Vitantonio Liuzzi were in pit lane during the start, but they are now back out onto the circuit. Just take a quick look at the very top of the screen. Have a look at what time of day we're racing in. 7:10 is the start of this race. That should be quite spectacular by the end.
It should indeed, shouldn't it? And it's a dry, glorious summer's evening at Spa as we plunge downhill. Then Dan Wells you're riding with the 166 Lamborghini. Much underrated driver is Dan Wells, from single-seaters into GT cars. But Micucci nearly a second to the good at the end of the opening lap. Hillebrand second, Pereira's third, Crestani fourth. Fifth is Marciello, sixth is Simone De Luca, seventh Matteo Cairoli upholding Porsche honour ahead of De Lorenzo, Rougier and Dan Wells rounding out the top 10. Look at this battle pack now, diving up towards L'École and just being able to hang on to his place, Simone De Luca, but that, John, was very tight indeed.
Well, it's no different to what we would expect in a live race, coming up Camel Straight, up to L'École, then through Malmedy, then the drop down Malmedy coming into Bruxelles. Everybody using the benefit of the slipstream, a group of cars, those that at the tail will get the biggest benefit, but of course the same issue applies. And I watched some of the practice this morning when Jenson Button, for example, is 3 into 2, will not go. The corner with no name, so 3 drivers compromising each other, and those that are following and reading what's going on. Michael Brown and that black McLaren was one of them, I think it was B.S. Michael in 12th place, and he will have benefited from it again. Just too many cars and too little bit of racetrack as they come through the exit of Pujol.
Now, drama there, one in the wall. Is that Arthur Rougier? I think he might have gone off the circuit. There's another one that's gone way wide in all of that as well. So drama heading down towards the Piff Path, and that's going to shuffle the order hugely as there. Look, another challenge is made up on the inside line. There goes 163 Albert Costa, storming his way up the order. So, drama at the Piff Path. Micucci leads the way, Hillebrand second, Pereira's third. I was about to say to Ben, it looks like Michael O'Brien's been given a drive-through penalty as well, but it's all kicked off, Ben.
Yeah, drive-through penalty for Michael O'Brien, and got to be so careful with track limits here. It's all kind of computer controlled, so if you do run a bit wide, this out into the wall.
Yeah, that's on the exit of Blanchimont, trying to go around the outside of Blanchimont. Not particularly with David Fumanelli, who we are riding on board with, so that was whether there was contact we couldn't tell from where we're sitting, whether that was a contact. And further, well, it's all kicking off now as they come up the hill towards the chicane.
It was Brian Heitkotter in the Nissan that's ended up in the wall, but the race director, Peter Roberts, the steward Richard Norbury, I think they're going to be busy now. We've got one car rejoining from a pit stop there as well, Ben. Look, heading down on the inside through the endurance pits. Now, while all this is going on, Hillebrand second, Pereira still third, De Luca fourth, Lorenzo fifth, Matteo Cairoli sixth, seventh is Louis Delatraz, in eighth place Miguel Grenier, ninth Albert Costa making good progress, but down to 10th is Marciello, so Raffaelli has got work to do here.
I didn't see the reason why Marciello has dropped down. He was in 5th place in the opening lap, down to 10th place. whether there's been a little getting together. We've been watching parts of the field, not necessarily following those at the very front, but Raffaele Marcello, one who I thought would have been a potential winner, certainly a podium stander, down in, he's actually dropped down to further place. Michael Bryan is now into 10th place, and he's sort of squeezed between the McLaren in 10th and the Lamborghini in 12th.
And Arno Santamato gets turned around, so another of the Mercedes in strife. Just when you think you might be getting a good run, something goes against you, doesn't it?
I mean, it's amazing that the transition between real racing and sim racing is that the sim car, Ben, you mentioned that it was more difficult to drive here at Spa than maybe some of the other cars that we're watching.
Well, right now, Jody Fannin is doing a good job keeping Scott Malvern at bay. Then the penalised David Fumanelli. The lead gap is up again, 6.7 seconds now that the leader Lorenzo Micucci has over Ivan Pereiras, the two that locked out the front of the grid. Running third is Luigi Di Lorenzo, who was 6th on the grid and 4th in the championship, so looking good for points as far as he is concerned. Throw everybody up in the air. Kang Ling goes wide. Louis Delatraz 8th in the championship before the race, running 5th. So if you're thinking points, it's going to be a very jumbled set of stats come the end of this race. 38.5 minutes to go, and what do we look for next, Ben?
Well, I'm quite impressed by Dan Wells, a man that perhaps is not necessarily well known to our European counterparts, but he's done a fantastic job over in Asia and been following online, and he's got himself a really, really nice new direct drive setup in his apartment in Hong Kong, and it's working really well for him. As Lamborghini's working well, he's in 8th. Here's a replay.
And it's 53, isn't it? Simone De Luca that we're looking at. Now, De Luca was in that leading gaggle early on. Is this going to be another victim of Eau Rouge? Yes, it is. I
mean, the car looked strange all the way down the hill, frankly. It looked as if it was crabbing coming down the hill. Ooh. And, of course, then the traffic has to go one way and the other to avoid what could have been another unpleasant incident at the top of Radion. That's the concern I have with that tarmac runoff. It gets used conveniently to get out of trouble rather than backing off and doing it that way.
So over the timing line they go. The gap between them, 0.350 of a second, is at the inside, and there's contact. Albert Costa stuck the Lamborghini at the inside. It is Cairoli who comes off worse, loses 2 places and has another spin on recovery. Louis Delatraz gets up between the pair, and Delatraz now tries to take advantage of the delay for Albert Costa. But, John, it may well be that the race officials have something to say about that. Your thoughts?
Well, I've got plenty to say about it. That's what the officials are going to say. Simply because all the things I've been saying about Albert Costa, thinking driver, getting it right, not pushing, not taking chances, he did it completely wrong coming into La Source. He was not in a position to take the ground away from the Porsche. He just carried too much speed. He had nowhere to go. As a closing gap, the Porsche was taken. And there will, in my view, a penalty for what has been a great drive up until this moment by Albert Costa.
Yeah, it's a shame it's going to potentially end that way, as now Louis Delatraz might be able to get 4th place back, a legacy of all of that. Here's the replay. Rossi, talk us through it.
So up over the finish line, look at the gap as they come in. Suddenly, is it brain fade or what? I'm going to make a dive, but he gets to the position. The Porsche it's always the Porsche's corner. Closing gap. Once you're in a closing gap, nothing you can do. You just sit there, wait for the inevitable, and of course the inevitable will ultimately be a penalty. A drive-through penalty has just been handed down to Albert Costa. Great, spoiled by a moment of impetuosity. What a shame.
A real shame, but the stewards agree, and it is a drive-through, so Delatraz will get his 4th place back. It's going to take some unravelling, Ben, this result, isn't it, with time penalties and drive-throughs to factor in as well, but Delatraz will at least get 1 spot back before the end.
One of the things you have to consider about the way that these guys are driving is they don't have the field of view that they would do if they were in a real-world car, especially when you're going into La Source with such a tight hairpin. Usually as a driver, you'll be turning your head to the apex of the corner, but of course your field of view, unless you're using virtual reality goggles, is fixed. They will, however, have a system that tells them if there's a car alongside, so that's kind of explaining if there is an overlap or not. But it's one of those struggles that sim racing will never really be able to overcome, is you cannot move your field of view around like you would do in a real world vehicle. David, I just did one of those switches from one screen to the other and just had a quick look. And as I looked at that onboard photo, onboard the Ferrari, it just looks so real. The glare through the windscreen, the dirt on the windscreen as well. This game, I said, of course, a competition, it does benefit from being the newest sim that's on the market, but the texturing and the way that this game looks, the long shadows, again, something you can't do in other platforms, to have a different time of day and a different time. You can run a full 24-hour race in this game if you fancied, and it's just amazing to see those examples being played out in front of us right now.
De Lorenzo running wide in a lot of parts of the racetrack, coming into Fagnes, then into Stavelot, and up the hill through Spa Francorchamps. So he needs to be careful. He's running currently in a podium standing position, so don't abuse track limits. You've done enough, you don't want to do any more.
There is the Aston Martin, and that should work well, John, on this section of circuit.
Yes, but I think that the Audi's got sufficient in hand. It's got a 1.5 second advantage when they came across the finish line, so I don't think, which we can't anticipate, that Ivan Pereira's will lose. But you can look to see how quickly the Aston actually has closed down on that run up the Camel Straight into Les Combes, through Malmedina. Let the car run wide, but be careful of those track limits. Then downhill, the downhill braking always. Aston gets his nose in, makes a 2 apex corner at Bruxelles. So he thinks there's an opportunity. It's going to be difficult. The gap, as I say, 1.3 seconds, currently, in real time, 1.3 seconds. So response from Pereira's to the charging De Lorenzo.
It's come down a fraction, therefore. Really, De Lorenzo's best chance is that Micucci is so far up the road they can get another lap out of the race that might give him a little bit more time to bring the gap down yet further. He's certainly not giving up, though. Here they come through the pith-path, this time right and then left. So the Aston Martin, in the Birol Art colours, the one-owned kart team, they're into the campus right-hander now. Jody Fannin goes through, still running 10th on the road, closing onto the back of Scott Mulvern. Now, where is the race leader in relation to 22 seconds on the clock? Can Micucci squeeze one more lap out of this? Let's see.
Just gone over the line, actually.
Right.
Just, as you were speculating, about 40 seconds to go, he managed to get across the line.
Okay.
And Mulvern has lost a position to Fuminelli, as we saw. It was at the bus stop chicane. Nice clean pass from Fuminelli down the inside, and Mulvern didn't fight it, but it's still going to be good finish. Actually, it doesn't matter because Fuminelli's got a 30-second penalty, so we can let him go, and Mulvern will still actually finish in 7th.
Yeah, doing the right thing, isn't he? We also just saw Michael O'Brien ahead here in the purple McLaren, go ahead of Brian Heitkotter. Michael doing different colour schemes for different rounds, second-generation racer. And there is the penalised Fuminelli ahead of Scott Mulvern. Right, so the hour is up. It's almost 10 past 8 local time. And there is the race leader in the traffic, soon to become the race winner, Lorenzo Micucci. John Watson, he has dominated this race from pole to seemingly a race win, and he's not put a wheel wrong.
We haven't actually seen a huge amount of him to see if he had put a wheel wrong, in fairness, but clearly it's been a masterful drive to not make an error, to not be forced into maybe making a small mistake, especially on that opening lap through Eau Rouge, and then that run up the hill, up the Camel Straight, where it's so easy to get mugged as you come into Les Combes. Outstanding drive, and it's still, half a lap of this 1 hour race, but effectively, unless something totally unforeseen was to happen, this is going to be maybe one of the sweetest victories that Micucci will have enjoyed in his race career.
And here's a guy that's been on the fringes, if you like, of international racing. He's raced in a bit of GT4, he's done that Euro NASCAR series, but now making GT3 people sit up and take notice. Ivan Pereiras is there in 2nd place, but he is being reeled in by Luigi De Lorenzo. That gap is down to 9/10 of a second, so we'll talk the race leader across the line, Micucci, but it's all kicking off for 2nd place because the gap between Audi and Aston Martin is coming down and down and down. Lorenzo Micucci then is heading for honours in round 2 of the SRO eSport GT Series. He's got the run through Blanchimont and then the bus stop still to go. and he's very nearly started round 3 at the Nürburgring. So far ahead is he, but Micucci for Audi then goes right and left. Lorenzo Micucci for LP Racing is going to win the pro race here at the eSports Total 24 Hours of Spa. Over the line, Lorenzo Micucci wins round 2 of the championship. Now look back, who is going to be second, Pareras or Di Lorenzo? Because the gap between the pair, 9/10 at the last sector timing point. And is it going to be Pareras who hangs on in there? The answer is yes, he comes across the line 7/10 ahead of Di Lorenzo. And then we wait and see Delatraz set for 4th. That'll be good for him in the championship. We'll try and work out some crude points in due course, but Delatraz is going to take 4th place, 5th Luca Giotto, 6th good drive by Dan Wells. Now 7th over the line but with a penalty is Ben Tusting, 8th over the line but with a penalty David Fumanelli. So up will go Scott Mulvern and also Jody Fanning, who came home in 9th and 10th places.
Well, once again, the cars then on their formation lap. This 1 hour race for the Silver Cup class, which is for the sim racers. The pro race already won by Lorenzo Micucci with a dominant drive up at the front for Audi. Luigi Di Lorenzo with a 3rd place finish moves him to the top of the standings in the pro class. But with the formation lap underway, it's time to hand over once again to Ben Constanduras, to John Watson and to David Addison.
Jack, thank you very much. We're almost good to go racing here for the 2nd round of the SRO eSport GT Series, the Silver Series. These drivers, all the experienced drivers from the sim racing world. Andrea Capocchio, as you've heard, starts alongside Hani Al-Sabti on the front row, Camille Franchak and Giovanni De Salvo on the 2nd row. Giorgio Simonini, 8th in the championship, goes from row 3 alongside Tobias Pfeffer. 5th in the championship, the seemingly perennially unlucky Amir Hosseini. He will start on the inside of row 4 alongside the Porsche of Jan-Marcel Dietrich and the 5th row Enzo Bonito. 7th in the title race, and David Tonitza, who is 3rd in the championship. Behind them, starting 11th, newcomer Tim Heinemann. Now, he's an experienced sim racer. He's also a very competitive GT4 real-world driver for the HWA Race Lab team. He will be taken to the track this weekend alongside Chris Herker, ahead of David Greco, Danilo Santoro, Kamil Pawlowski, James Parker, and on and on and on goes this bumper grid until you get to Albert Garcia at the very back. Now, one that might be missing, I think it's technical problems, is Furkan Özkan, whose BMW, number 37, may be missing from the grid, Ben Constanduras. That's one for you to see if you can ferret out in your perambulations up and down the pit lane. But as the cars head downhill and get themselves shortly ready to go racing, John Watson, this again is going to be a fascinating race, and interesting once more to see the way that Audi has, just as we saw in Pro, taken to the front in silver as well. They will turn through the bus stop and then in this Noah's Ark 2x2 formation get themselves ready for that shorter first lap, because they will start, don't forget, on the run down towards Eau Rouge as befits the Total 24 Hours of Spa. So although at the moment, look, Capocchio tries to get away, I think 1 or 2 drivers forgetting where the start is for this. There is a driver's briefing for these races, just like for the real world. Peter Roberts, the race director, will have made the point to them, clarified it with us last night as they come down towards La Source. They're getting themselves ready to go racing. Ben, quick word, have we got any pit lane starters, anybody with dramas? What do you know?
You mentioned the one driver that doesn't seem to have appeared in the server. Everyone else is in there. No one starting from pit lane, and they've just got to observe these boxes that Assetto Corsa give them. I'm also a bit concerned about the clouds as well. It looks like quite an overcast evening here at Spa.
There is a chance of rain for this race. I understand it can be set in the game server, in the parameters on which we run, so it might be that we get some spots of rain for these drivers because they're more used to sim racing and what that can throw at you. However, round 2 of the Silver Series in the SRO eSport GT Series is go. Good getaway by the poleman Andrea Capocchio as they drop downhill then for the first time. Hani Al-Sabti goes second. It's Audi ahead of Lexus then as they power uphill for the first time. Do they all make it safely through Eau Rouge? So far so good, but there's drama in the background. 1, 2, 3 go off the road. Nobody else gets involved, but that's going to shuffle the back of the pack. Yellow flags will come out as the leaders go toe-to-toe. Al-Sabti on the outside line of the Lexus. Got his nose in front, couldn't grab the lead, but off the road goes Capocchio across the curb, and he's second as they come out of Lecon. John, you could see that one coming.
Well, the Lexus had the grunt up the hill, managed to get up into position, and maybe an overreaction from Micucci. He just made that error, took too much going into the corner, ran off the outside, and then, of course, he's up the lead, and the lead is all important. Lexus has got that lead. He's actually managed to pull just under half a second in the space of 3 corners. All of a sudden, Micucci, who really had this race to lose, maybe he's lost it in the first third of the lap.
Well, let's see. There's a long way to go, as they say, as you look at number 313 heading down the hill. That is Danilo Santoro, 26th at Silverstone, going nicely here. Santoro running into that leading gaggle thus far as they head now through the pith path for the first time.
We did lose 3 cars at the bottom at Eau Rouge there. Kieran Prendergast went off in the Ferrari, Josh Martin as well, and David Plainton. They're all 3 now running, but they're off the tail of the long queue of 46 starters.
So it's going to be hard to make progress up through that, isn't it? But you never know. 92 going through, that's Andy Hosseini. Here's the replay of the start, John.
Yeah, the Ferrari there, you see, clips the side of the Bentley, spins it round, and then from the Lexus, I'm not sure. There's all 3, there's nowhere to go. The gap was closing both on the racetrack, but actually in the runoff before there was contact with anything solid. So, and contact again up at the... One of the Audis was tagged from behind, that was being spun round.
There's a Porsche in the walls as well, yeah.
Messy. I mean, I thought the sim racers race at Silverstone was exceptionally clean. This has been far from clean in this opening lap.
The way the BMW gets away, storms through Blanchimont, the gap stretching. But Luca Lucio trying to bring the gap down under braking, which he will do as he swings into the bus stop. The current iteration of the chicane at the end of the Spa lap. And now over the timing line, grandstand on the left, pit lane on the right, and the media centre and the race control building and the hospitality buildings. Meantime, out on track, Tobias Pfeffer is being given a really hard time now by Pavlovsky in the Lamborghini. Down they come to the bus stop. 114 is Pavlovsky, and Pfeffer catches the back of the Ferrari and turns 95 around. That is David Tonitza. He worked for so many laps to get ahead of the Audi, and then one tiny tag, and he turns turtle on him.
And that was the tiniest of touches. I mean, barely perceptible, but that was enough to turn the Ferrari around. And again, undoubtedly, that will get some attention from race director, because it was all he had to do was turn the steering wheel a little bit more to the right. He would have avoided that contact.
Now, Benito will be aware that Pavlovsky is not that far behind him. There is Benito. He's running in 6th place. Tobias Pfeffer is the first of those with a penalty 10th on the road. 3 more minutes to go. This is lap 25. It's going to be about 27, isn't it, like it was for the Pro Series race, seemingly. In fact, Capoccia, the race leader, Hani Al-Sabti, 2nd. 2 drivers we've not seen too much of late, but both really having a great reversal of fortune after what befell them at Silverstone in the opening round of the championship. Next stop, Nürburgring, then it's Barcelona, and the final round, it's up to you to decide where we go, in a sense, because it's going to be a vote to decide the venue, and that will be announced in due course, ready for the showdown for the Silver and Pro Series in the SRO eSport GT Series.
I want to know what he would choose. We've got all of the intercontinental tracks.
Ben, do you want to know the circuit? Do you want to know the circuit I would choose? It's probably not on the menu. I would choose Watkins Glen and Upper New York State.
What about
if it's going to be if it's going to be in Europe, then where could we go in Europe that would be exciting? That would really test the drivers. And you've got places like Paul Ricard, which has got... If they took out the chicane at Paul Ricard and let them go flat out into scene, that would get my thumbs up.
Could work, because that's part of the SRO Championship, so that's modelled on this game. We've got all the intercontinental tracks, all the Enduro and all the sprint tracks from last year, so there's plenty to choose from. So
I can't offer a vote for Bathurst or Macau, is that what you're telling me?
Bathurst is on intercontinental, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, well, put a vote in for that then. Right, Amir Hosseini's just lost a place. Benito's ahead of him as they run up towards Le Con, but Hosseini breaks late on the inside, forces
he is.
Benito's up the curb.
He's done it, he's gotten through. No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. Can't believe it. What been good again, good clean racing. Now down the inside, down into Brussels, down the outside, but the Lamborghini also looking, didn't find a way. Well,
Proper
One
racing.
minute,
Proper
1 minute,
GT racing.
20-second race. It's all kicking off in this penultimate lap.
And look, now Bonito's still not given up because he's on the attack, he's on the defensive, he's crawling all over the back of Hosseini as they drop into Pouhon now. Through this long left-hander. Hosseini off the brakes, back on the power, tries to get the Mercedes to drag him out the other side. All of that grunt from the front engine, Mercedes AMG GT3. Got the 488 Ferrari closing up into the pith path. Dab on the brakes there from Hosseini. Bonito tucked up behind him, looking for a way by now.
Well, Bonito had it all done and dusted, we thought, but then Silver knows that Mercedes coming into Malmedy just came out in front. And it's not now just Bonito and the Mercedes, you've got the Lamborghini also. I mean, in the rear mirror, if not in the side mirror of the Ferrari, is the 7th place Lamborghini.
Mathematically, this must be the battle for the lead of the championship because these are the only two that have featured well up the field in both of our races so far, I think.
I would go along with that, and they're going to get one more lap out of this, aren't they? Because the clock has yet to hit zero. The leader, Andrea Capoccia, should go through any moment. Here is Pfeffer, and yeah, he has gone through. You're right, there is Pfeffer on the attack of Santoro once more. So now the hour is up. They'll complete this lap. Capoccia is on his last lap. It's going to be 27 laps once more. But the good news is that Hosseini and Bonito have got one more lap, one more tour of the circuit for this slugfest for 5th place here. Looking back now, John, from the Mercedes.
So here we go, down the hill for the last racing lap of 1 hour of racing into Eau Rouge, over the curb, swing to the right, up over the top of Radio, car gets light, everybody stays on racetrack, nobody gains anything, nobody loses anything, but the Ferrari is coming again, and again, and again, pulls out to the left, carries the momentum forward, but the Mercedes has got the high ground, in other words, it's got the inside going into Lake Coombe. Can Bonito this time manage? Yes, he has. He's managed to get that position from Hosseini finally. And just about, because the Lamborghini Pawlowski is also all over the back of the Mercedes, down the outside into Bruxelles. Can he take the long way around and make it work? 2 places in 1 lap, maybe too much for Hosseini. He's got a little bit of contact, but then nothing to worry about.
Well, great racing. What a way to round out round 2 of the championship. Amir Hosseini loses out, and Bonito straight away disappears up the road. It makes you wonder what he could have done had he got past sooner, but Hosseini's spirited defence comes to nothing. He makes a mistake and he runs out wide. Now Pawlowski should be on the attack. He's got the momentum as they come down towards the pit path. He's going to have a look to the outside line. Hosseini covers him off, but Pawlowski here, Ben, could yet get 6th before the end, couldn't he?
See Triple F and being represented here, effectively the Works Lamborghini team really trying to find a way through at the end of the race, fighting every single second of this hour-long adventure. And another really great one from Hosseini, who's managed to pick up some decent points despite really not having the race pace totally.
Now you can see on the totem pole a minute worth of penalties now for Pfeffer for assaulted incidents. We'll worry about the final results in due course because Capoccia has taken the checkered flag to win round 2 of the SRO eSport GT Series. 2nd, Hani Al-Sabti. 3rd, De Salvo. 4th, Franchak. And then it's going to be Bonito for 5th in the Ferrari, but who will be 6th? Hosseini powers towards the line. Is he going to hang on in there just ahead of Pawlowski? The answer is yes, he does. So it is 6th for Hosseini. Pawlowski takes 7th, Tonitza 8th, Santoro takes 9th, and Pfeffer 10th on the road, but give him a minute's penalty, and that throws him probably to about last place, I would imagine. So it is a win for Andrea Capoccia. Hani Al-Sabti takes 2nd. 3rd place goes the way of Giovanni De Salvo. 4th to Camille Franchak. Enzo Bonito 5th, having been 7th at Silverstone. 6th, Amir Hosseini, having been 5th at Silverstone. 7th, Kamil Pawlowski. 8th place goes the way of David Tonitza after a spin. 9th, Danilo Santoro. And 10th, when you start to put the penalties into the mix, it is Jaroslav Honchik in the Lamborghini.
So the championship leaders after the SRO eSport GT Series round 2 at Spa, Lorenzo Micucci, the race winner, and then in the pro class, and that moves him to the top of the championship on 27 points. And then in the silver class, we've got Andrea Capoccia, who takes the victory and moves joint top of the standings there with Patrick Selva ahead of the race at the Nürburgring, which is coming up in a week's time. We will leave you now. Thank you very much for your company over the last couple of hours. 2 really great 1-hour GT races from David Addison, from John Watson and his bog, and from Ben Constanduris, and from myself, Jack Nichols. It's been a pleasure being with you, and we'll see you in 1 week's time for round 3 of the SRO eSport GT Series at the Nürburgring. See you then.